Hi, David. Looks like you're in a very cool place. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Recording here. This is the January 6th, 2020 J21 planning call, first of the decade. So happy New Year. Thanks for being here, everyone. I'm Jessica. Okay, so we are just a few weeks out from January 21st, the anniversary of Citizens United, and there's a lot of stuff going on. The world is already changing a lot since 2020 has started, and I hope that you all are hanging in there. It's kind of a tough time. So thanks for being here and thanks for being in the work. It's more important than ever. So basically, excuse me, my cat is running all around got the Zooms right now, so apologize for the noise. Let's I'll just open it up, and if anyone wants to update us on where you're at, the questions that I have for you are, how's it going? Are you planning something for January 21st, whether it's a sit-in or something a little different? How are the calls and emails going? Have you heard any feedback? And have you gotten a lobbying visit scheduled or completed with your representative? So let's see, let's start with you, Mark. How's it going down there?
Is Janice on the call? She would be better.
No.
She's the one who's been the most active of us. I hate to be disappointing to you, but I haven't been doing much at all. So I'll pass if you don't mind. So.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. There's no disappointing me.
Okay. I understand.
Okay. No disappointing here. Just trying to support you. Max, how are things going for you? What's on your plate right now?
And I'm kind of getting it out where I can, but I'm not aware of anything going on anywhere around me on January 21st.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. And let's see, David, I know you said you told me about the feedback from Tester's office. Anything else you want to update us on?
Primarily on my part, it's been social media, trying to chime in on other people's social media posts about this or that issue and trying to remind them that all of their good energy is basically very likely going to go for nothing, right, if the corporate interests get involved and start funding their opposition candidates and stuff, and then posting a site or link to the pledge and a link to the the general website to get more involved. Also, just been doing a lot of conversations with people, reaching out to Tester's office. I think I called twice, finally got a call back, and then just thinking deep thoughts about what I personally want to get involved with on Jan 21 and the degree to which I am willing to get carted off to jail and all that sort of thing. And I think that although I don't know of anything planned in Great Falls, we do have a very stately courthouse here, and it has been a site for many protests, specifically around like caged children and immigrant and immigration laws and things like that. So I could very easily see getting a group together, especially through like Great Falls Rising, the local civic organization. It's a nonpartisan, not allowed to back a candidate or anything, but we are allowed to take stands on things like dark money. And in fact, we're having our January meeting dedicated to a screening of the movie Dark Money with the producer. His name's escaping me at the moment. Is it Daniel? No, I can't remember his name. But the guy who put that movie out is coming here to actually take questions and hold a discussion group amongst what we expect will be somewhere between 25 and 50 people after viewing that film. We're also going to do a pre-screening for people that want to see the movie in advance and think for a week before they actually attend that Great Falls Rising. That'll be, I think, the 28th and the 21st and 28th will be those. So I think it's actually going to coincidentally coincide the screening with the with J21. But that'll be an interesting talking point as people are attending that. So that may be our contribution for J21, is to hold a screening of Dark Money in a church in Great Falls for whoever wants to attend it for free.
That's awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, that movie is really, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard that it's really good and a great opportunity for us to get out there and bring the petition if you can.
Right.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, great. Glad to hear that. Film screening is a great thing to organize too. That's definitely been a very successful tactic for us. So glad to hear it. And let's see. Asa, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly. I'm sorry. Is there anything you wanted to say or update us on?
No, but thanks for checking in. This is Asa in St. Louis, Missouri, and more. I was just trying to grab some time on the call today to hear what else is going on, what people have planned, and how it's all coming together. I have not been planning anything myself, but I'm glad to hear that others have, and it's important to keep it going. So I'm just going to keep listening and leave it back to you.
Great. Okay, cool. And Ambrosia, I think you're just kind of here to listen in too, but I want to make space if there's anything you want to say.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Yes, that is my role today. In case anybody had any specific affiliate request that I could help fill. Pass.
Thanks for being here. Okay, and I got a couple of emails from folks who are doing stuff but who couldn't make it today. The holiday season is still upon some of us, at least in our confusion about what day it is. So I know that we've got work happening in New Mexico, and they're in an interesting position there trying to get someone on who they've been working on for some time. So we've got momentum there. We've got stuff happening in New York. I had to move away from my list because my computer is weird. So let's hope this still works. There's Washington State has a lot going on, as always. We've got a couple things happening in Ohio, especially District 1. We're looking at something in Florida, District 27. They've been doing actions about Shalala for some time. I don't know that it's going to be a sit-in this time, but some sort of action with a small coalition there. I know Washington District 2 has been on these calls a couple times, and they've been doing all of the outreach and making phone calls up until now. But they were struggling to get constituents on board because they haven't had very much luck. It's I think a fairly rural district. Can you still hear me okay? Okay, great. My internet's been on today. And then I know that, let's see, and then a couple in California. So that is what's on the map right now. And then I know that there are a couple of others who haven't yet filled out the survey. So, because I've gotten word of that. So I'm still trying to get folks to make sure that they let us know what's happening so that it's on our radar and we can help with media. Let's see, there's one thing that I just wanted to let you all know about. So the situation with Ed Markey's office is a little bit funny. So Markey has agreed to introduce in the Senate this year, but as you all know, he wants to wait till there's a coalition of 5 senators to introduce the bill. And it's sort of an odd balance because we need to be able to tell other offices that Markey's office is introducing the bill, but we don't want to put his name out there too publicly because before it's introduced, it's still a little bit delicate. So I just, it doesn't directly relate to J21, but I know a lot of you are involved in helping us get senators as well. So I just wanted to say, totally fine to talk about Ed Markey to Senate offices and to say that over the phone, but would be good to keep his name off of social media until we have an initial coalition, just so it doesn't compromise the arrangement. So I just wanted to make that announcement. Otherwise, let's talk a little bit about where we are in the campaign timeline. So we've got this call tonight. Right now, we should be making calls to our representative's office each day. So asking them to co-sponsor HJR 48, the We the People Amendment. We want to be writing emails. I have just an email template in my email account that I just kind of copy and paste every day, send them an email every day, and just really annoy them. And then tagging them on Facebook and Twitter. I know a lot of you are doing social media stuff. And then I don't know if anyone on this call has had lobbying visits yet this year or late last year, but that's one thing that would be really useful, even if you can't get it together for a January 21st sit-in. If you can reach out and try to schedule a lobbying visit, that goes a long way. So if you're not planning a sit-in for January 21st, that's okay, because this is just the first in a wave of actions that's going to be happening in 2020. So the next round will probably be late February, early March. We're going to try to have another round of sit-ins, or, if you feel like for your community, it's best to try to do a film screening or a rally or something like that. We can talk about what that looks like. But to start preparing for the next wave of things in kind of late winter, early spring. So that means that we need to just continue to put pressure on them with as many phone calls as we can. Phone banks are really helpful. So I know I've got a couple requests for lists for supporters in your area from our database so that you can call them and ask them to call their representative. It goes a long way, really, to have as many constituents as possible making these calls. Another thing that goes a long way is to collect organizational support. So I've heard from a lot of offices that if they have organizations in their district calling or sending letters in support, that it goes a really long way. So the more phone calls and letters they get from constituents and organizations, the higher priority an issue is on their docket to bring to the actual representative. So it's almost a numbers game, I've been told, which is kind of exciting because it means it's actually something we can tackle. But they've said, if they get one phone call a week, it kind of gets lost. But if they're getting regular phone calls, they make a tally each week, and then they have a weekly call with the representative. And if something has had enough momentum, then they have to bring that up to the representative. So it really is pretty straightforward in terms of just making sure we're getting all the calls and emails and organizational endorsements as possible. So if you have folks in like this progressive organization you were talking about, David, if they would be willing to even write a letter or make a phone call stating support for the We the People amendment and asking your representative to co-sponsor, that would be a big ask. If you're part of indivisible groups or other, money out of politics groups, or even just general progressive groups, having other organizations ask the same question can be very beneficial. Let's see. Where else are we at? Lobbying visits. If you haven't done lobbying before and want to talk it through, or want to make sure that you have the right information to bring with you, please let me know. But also don't feel like you need to be a total expert in order to go and have a lobby visit. It's really impactful when constituents make a point to go to your representative's office and sit with them in person and tell them what you want them to do. So they might have questions that you don't know the answers to, or they might get a little bit into the weeds and the details. And if you don't know, it's perfectly okay to say, I'm not sure about the answer to that, but I'll get back to you. So I just want to really encourage you that if you haven't scheduled a lobby visit, all you need to do is call their office. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 phone calls. You want to ask for the scheduler. There's a specific person in each office who is responsible for setting the constituent lobby visits. So ask for that person and follow up with them until they give you a visit. And go in there. If you're a constituent yourself, that's great. If you're not, it's best to bring a constituent with you, and just let them know what you want them to do. Co-sponsor HJR 48. So that's a really big one. Now, since we're a couple weeks out, if you are planning something, whether that's a sit-in or you just want to use the 21st as an opportunity to get a bunch of people to make phone calls, sometimes people have a hard time with the ask of, make a call every day or every week. But if you give them a one day of action, sometimes that can draw in people who might not otherwise participate. So you can say, coming up on the 21st, we're having a day of action, so please make a phone call on that day to your representative to ask them to co-sponsor. So you could post that on social media and to your friends and family and email list. And then if you are planning I'm saying this for people who are on the call and for those who are watching the recording. If you are planning for a sit-in, it's a good idea to be meeting with the group who's going to be doing the sit-in and start thinking about signage and communication on the day of. So you want to be sending a press release, which we have a template for in the campaign packet. And then think about optics. So if you are planning an action that risks arrest, where you might have some photos taken or some media, it would be helpful to wear something on your physical body that tells people who might be looking at a photograph what you're doing. So I've seen some effective messaging like, safety pinning some paper to your back that says, we demand Congress take action against corporate power, or we demand Representative so-and-so co-sponsor the We the People amendment, things like that. And it's also, right now is an interesting time because with everything escalating in Iran, we have a real opportunity to explain to people the relationship between corporate power and war for profit. And so I think that it also provides us a way to talk about this that feels very relevant and personal to people in this moment. So I just encourage you to be talking about it in that way. Corporate power, of course, has its tentacles in almost every facet of the things we care about and that affect us. But we're in a really unique and dire moment. And so talking about the role that large corporations have in war, I think is very, unfortunately, relevant. So next week, we're going to have another meeting because we're getting close. We just want to be talking about things. Again, if you're not planning something specific for January 21st, please still use the opportunity to get your friends and family and fellow constituents to make phone calls at very least. I think we're at the point now where we can talk about the ideal and sort of the minimum. And so the minimum is, please be making those phone calls and getting as many folks as you can to join you in that. The maximum or the ideal is to have a sit-in. But if you can't pull that off this time, that's okay. All this work is still relevant. And if you are planning an arrestable action and you would like to talk that through, you want me to talk to your group or want to have some sort of video meeting or something, please let me know. I'd be happy to talk with folks. And please, whatever you do, whether that's a film screening or a rally or a lobby visit or a sit-in, please make sure to take photos. That's one thing we've learned from actions in the past. We're living in a time where if there's not pictures, people don't think it happened. So even if it's just a snapshot of some folks doing whatever you have planned, take some photos, send them to us. You can send them to me directly. So that we can get them on social media and maximize the impact of the day. So I'm going to pause here for a second and see if there are any questions or comments about any of this. Okay. And David, I see your comment here about Tester's bill. So the Democracy for All amendment is exactly what I said. It's a sort of subpar amendment that doesn't address all corporate constitutional rights. So a lot of people mistake that for the We the People amendment. So in all of this, whether we're talking to senators or House representatives, you might get people saying to you, well, what about the Democracy for All amendment? Or aren't there a bunch of amendment proposals like this? And the answer is, it seems that way, but actually not really, because there's no other amendment that addresses all corporate constitutional rights, which is really what's necessary for this not to be a failed mission. We only really have one shot at amending the Constitution here, so it has to be full and it has to be comprehensive. And so if we don't address all corporate constitutional rights, we're really leaving loopholes for us to continue having the same status quo that we have now. So it doesn't really change much unless we take full consideration. But like I said, I'll send some talking points about that in case you run into that in the future.
Yeah, in particular, if you can play up those loopholes, that'll give me talking points for testers people, for example, to say, but you're proposing something that doesn't cover X, Y, and Z, and either they disagree and think that it does, or are willing to admit that it doesn't, and I wander over to the Markey camp as a result.
Right. Will do. Yes, we've got a side-by-side comparison of the Democracy for All Amendment and the We the People Amendment. So it's a pretty clear comparison that is very easy to look at. Let me just see if I can get that to you all right now, because it might be interesting for everyone on this call and relevant to what we're talking about. So this page that I will link to in the chat right now has comparisons of all of the other amendment proposals that are out there. And then if you scroll down to the Democracy for All Amendment, you can see a link to the side-by-side comparison. And that's just a printout that you could take with you or send to them.
Nice. That's very helpful. Thank you. I wish I'd had that when I was talking to this guy.
Yeah, no problem. Well, it's okay to follow up, right? That's always a thing you can do. And it's good, right? The more you have to touch base about, the more they hear your voice, and that's always good. Okay.
And then my other question was going to be, if since it sounded like there wasn't a lot of, how do I put it? There wasn't a lot of sort of initiatives going on amongst the people that were on this call. So I was wondering, is there any kind of a map that would show us where the nearest J21 public action is that we could potentially consider driving to it?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I had been constructing a map, and then things changed really quickly with several of the events. So there's not a physical map right now, but I will send everyone tomorrow a list of where things are happening. It was a little murky when I tried to do that before, but I think now things are a little bit more in order. So I'll make sure that you have that information so you can. I
mean, if committing these actions to a map is too overt, right, and likely to give away some element of surprise we're trying to harbor, I'm fine with not having a map, but just sort of getting a phone call or a private email that tells me where to go or where to consider going on J21 if I'm not doing my own thing.
Sure thing. Yeah, will do. Let me make myself a note here. Okay, so we can do that. And okay.
Feed that cat.
I know. It's not about food. This cat is so vocal. She does not stop talking ever. More than me, if you can imagine. Okay, so what else to say? Okay, so those are really the things that I wanted to make sure got to you all. I want to especially encourage, if you all have anything that that you would like to put forward as a personal statement about why you care about corporate power and why you care about passing the 28th Amendment, I want to encourage you to submit that to us. So if you want to, all of you are here for some personal reason, right? It's sure, it's intellectual and it's academic and it's constitutional, but it's also deeply personal for a lot of us. I know for me, my entire hometown burned down because there was a corporation that was grossly irresponsible. A lot of people died and suffered because of that. And I care about it because I care about, lots of other issues that it intersects with. And I know all of you, because you're here and because you're participating, have passion around this. And so for January 21st, even if you're not participating in an action, I want to encourage you to articulate via a video or writing or something like that, why this matters to you. One thing that we can hope to come out of this is some stories. We've been talking a lot lately about how the impact of stories, I think, can be underestimated in this realm of activism. I think it gets a little intellectual for people. And when they have personal stories about why you care so much about this, I think it goes a long way. So if nothing else, I'd encourage you to articulate why this matters to you. And if you want some help doing that, let me know. We have a page on the website that's called Examples of Corporate Rule, which are short stories essentially about how corporate power affects communities and mostly communities, but also issues in a larger way. So if you have something that you want to say, I just want to invite you to take a moment as we approach January 21st and think about, we're in a new decade, and we've had a decade of Citizens United, and before that, about 100 years of corporate constitutional rights. And so I know for me around the new year, I get a little bit reflective and start thinking about the last year, or maybe the last 10 years in this case, and what you've seen changed and what you have experienced because of corporate power. I'm not even 30, and so we've been at war like my entire life, and I haven't ever really known politics without Citizens United. And so I've been thinking a lot about that and trying to articulate it. So I want to invite you to do the same and share that with your fellow constituents and with those you organize with and with me. So I want to say thank you very much for your presence and your energy in the movement, and encourage you to do something for January 21st, whether you're planning a sit-in and gonna be arrested, or whether you're going to be collecting signatures or hosting a film screening or writing a story. Let's take that day to do some reflecting and at least sharing our stories. Okay, so are there any other questions or comments about the campaign or anything else I can help you all with?
I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to link there in the chat bar the campaign plan again, so you can see all the scripts and stuff for when you're calling. And again, let me know if you need help with a lobby visit. That is going to be an important one. It's good to get there in person and sit down with someone. It really goes a long way. So let me know if you need help. I will send out the recording of this call along with the things that I promised you tonight or tomorrow. And David, I'll give you a call later this week. And thank you so much, all of you. It's not too late to do something. So think about how you can participate on January 21st in some way. And thank you all very much.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.